Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As governments are paying more attention to digital tools and services due to their increased use, this presents an opportunity to address cyber threats and unify efforts to ensure an open, secure, trustworthy, and inclusive internet that would have otherwise taken much longer. To address this issue, we have the next panel discussion on rethinking cybersecurity strategy for governments. I would like to invite Mohammed Ujaley, Senior Assistant Editor, ETGovernment, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Ujaley.
Hello and very warm welcome to this special panel discussion focused on the topic of rethinking cybersecurity strategy for government organization. To lead the discussion, today I am joined by Mr. Manoj Kumar Pattnaik, Additional Secretary with Electronics and IT Department, also the CEO of OCAC with Government of Odisha. Mr. Manas Panda, Director Software Technology Parks of India, based out of Bhubaneswar. Ms. Snigdha Acharya, Senior Technical Director and Head Center of Excellence for Application Security with National Informatics Center at Bhubaneshwar. Mr. Sohan Nautiyal, Head of State E-Governance Mission Team with Government of Odisha. And Mr. Parikshit, Gangaher, Manager System Engineering for Fortinet. Thank you all of you for joining us for this special panel discussion focusing on cybersecurity and as to how the state government can mitigate the challenges that is there from a cybersecurity perspective. Let me begin with Mr. Pattnaik. Mr. Pattnaik, in view of the emerging challenges that we witnessed during the pandemic from a cybersecurity perspective, what kind of changing cybersecurity challenges are you witnessing in government organization? If you could share based on your experience over the last 2.5 years as to how the new dynamics in relation to the cybersecurity is emerging and how the state government is trying to mitigate some of them.
Thank you, Mr. Ujala. During COVID and post-COVID, cyber fraud and attack is increasing in a scale and intensity with quantum jump number of victims. It is actually unprecedented. There are mainly the two regions are primarily responsible for such dramatic increase in number of victims of cyber attack. First, more common people join the online network to access services, because during COVID, post-COVID, people who are not actually comfortable in accessing online services or going online, see in rural pockets or older people, they have become part of the online network. Then second, work from home is a new norm, making employees vulnerable to attack due to less or no security environment in the internet at home. So these are the two main reasons for increase in cyber attack during and post-COVID. Attacks in the form of phishing, malware, fraudulent website, direct attack on a portal or application. Some of the new attacks use a form of machine learning that adapts to environment and remain undetected. Phishing attacks are becoming more sophisticated and using different channels such as SMS and voice. So these kind of new attacks have come in the parlance of cyber attack, because the number of victims are increasing day by day, because the number of targets is increasing day by day because of online access by the common people.
Right, absolutely. I'll come back to you again. I'll go to Mr. Manas Panda. Mr. Panda, what we have been observing that STPI has somehow turned out to be a vehicle for taking out IT and IT services across the state, and especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. I mean, in a places where you would not find some kind of investment, but still STPI will go and it will create a conducive environment for IT infrastructure. Would you like to share, based on your experience during the pandemic, what kind of acceleration that you have witnessed? And if you could add those to some of the challenges from a security perspective that you have noticed.
as you mentioned, one of the mandate of STPI is also to disperse to the smaller, to move to the smaller town in order to facilitate, in order to promote the entrepreneur, to start up budding entrepreneurs in the smaller towns. Because and during the pandemic also, because of, as Mr. Pattnaik mentioned, a lot of the new norm had come, like work from home. So there were difficulty in terms of regulatory difficulty. So try come out with some guideline. In fact, we from STPI also come out with some guideline, because there were issues with customs to use the bonded premises remotely. So that also we cover. But as a result, we see a lot of we come out with the norm, allowed the IT entrepreneur to work from home. So the industry, particularly even the larger industry, you can say, they face a lot of challenges because they were not prepared for this kind of vulnerability access attack. Because earlier the employees, they used to work within a confined environment, within the office environment, wherein everything was secure. But when they work, they get their machine access to a public network. So there is there were a lot of chances, and it happened also. So they did lot of measures, particularly in smaller towns when the facilities are not available. So we at government also, we are thinking seriously to come out with something, how we can, if at all it will continue, because this is a new norm. Maybe everyone cannot come to the regular norm, but it will be mixed kind of thing. So, so using our infrastructure in smaller towns, wherein the company can create a smaller center, like satellite center, where they can come, the employee can come, use something, this secure network. So government is also thinking. In fact, we are also talking to state government, government of Odisha, to work out some plan. So hopefully some new solution.
Absolutely. Snigdha ma'am, I'll come to you because you come from National Informatics Center, and NIC has a mandate to take the e-governance across the country. And within Odisha, a lot of application, a lot of e-governance services have been implemented with the help of NIC, be it e-office or any other thing that you mentioned. Would you like to share your experience as to what kind of security challenges you witnessed during the pandemic, and some of the action that NIC would have taken to ensure that those could be mitigated on an optimum level?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this forum. See, during the pandemic, the threat landscape evolved to different level than was originally seen earlier, and people shifted to work from home because that was the requirement at that point of time. So when people shifted to work from home, all the home computers got onboarded into the enterprise network. The home computers used to be used sparingly earlier, so they were not maintained without any antiviruses and endpoint security kind of solutions in place. They were all onboarded on the enterprise network, bringing in all the vulnerabilities into the enterprise network. So, I mean, in fact, it's learned that there were threat intels received I mean, because everyone was onboarded using VPN. So there were threat intel that there were attempts to penetrate the VPN network of NIC originating from China and Pakistan. That it was reported. There were large number of attempts around that. So these were some of the things which came to light then. Then there were other learnings. In fact, as part of this onboarding of home computers, we ourselves also got onboarded, and we were having access to lots of resources for carrying out our different tasks. But there were other provisioning to the different government departments users to access their normal internet applications, for which they had to be onboarded over VPN. So I feel that it was endowing a lot of privileges to those categories of people. I'll be talking about that in the next section about it. And apart from that, there were these reportings from the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center in their newsletters. What they have reported is that there were a lot of phishing related attacks with contents originating about COVID-19, asking for donations, asking for applying updates on the computer. And there were another instance, there was this case of ransomware being laid in email, phishing emails being sent to people seeming to come from trusted government agencies, and which when clicked would deploy the malware on the end system and block access to the system, asking for ransom. So that was one instance. Another instance was there where there is these players in Park who had created a duplicate app, Arangya app, which was sent to these government officials, stooping on their details. So one they were sending that through links. So once installed, it would pass on the data from the mobile onto the creator of the app. So these are some of the incidents or kind of things that were reported in some of these. So these are learnings. So mostly, I mean, learnings from this is that they were attacks included mostly phishing, and attacks included introducing vulnerability into the enterprise network.
Absolutely.
These were the mostly things immediately at that point of time. Other things were regular cybersecurity kind of incidents. So they were not, they would not be considered when we're talking about this occasion. In fact, there's one more thing. There were about 300% increase as per certain data, 300% increase in the cyber attacks in 2020 as vis-a-vis 2019. That's what something reported.
So I think a couple of things are quite clear that during the pandemic, you know, what happened, the digital transformation agenda of different government organizations accelerated like never before. And because of that, you know, the government organization, anybody was creating large attack surface. And there was also the less awareness to the citizen and even within the government system. And because of it, all those phishing attacks, everything was happening. Mr. Nautiyal, I'll come to you just to understand the fact what Snigdha ma'am says that, you know, according to the cyber security challenges or attack increased like never before. There was 300% jump. And what we have observed that you need very high end quality of automation to have a better visibility for what is really happening in your data center, what is happening in your IT infrastructure, so that you could take some predictive measure to mitigate challenges. Would you like to share as to how we can use some of the next generation technology that is coming, like AI or machine learning, for security automation? If you could share some of your experience on that.
Thanks, Mr. Mohd, Ujaley. I would like to thank ET to give me the opportunity, and it's my privilege to be part of this panel discussion on rethinking cybersecurity strategy for government. As we are in digital world, there is a lot of threats, a lot of hacking, phishing happening here. And as Pattnaik sir and Manoj sir has also told, that a lot of phishing is happening, and then hacking also, and there are a lot of compromise around. Having said that, as part of the state, what we have taken, so the state, as part of this, we have established state-of-the-art security operations center, and this keeps government website, even web application immune from the cyber attacks. So already we have NOC as well, that Network Operations Center. Okay, cybersecurity perspective, the Odisha government has established a robust mechanism to protect its website and application from hackers. Okay, a security operations center, so CSOC, which is part of CERTO, is being built on the premises of OCAC Tower to prevent any cyber intrusions and attacks. In view of this emerging cyber threats, we have next generation and robust cyber security walls to prevent the government website from getting hacked. And broader objective of the CSOC will be to monitor suspicious inbound traffic and take immediate preventive measures against the malicious users. Okay. And CSOC shall monitor, detect, and investigate respond to the cyber threats. So having said that, what exactly as part of the CSOC currently is being done, okay, and the system is made operational on state data center, where the government application have been hosted and statewide network and the secretariat infrastructure. So before anyone try to get into the system, they have to go through the CSOC, whether it is our state data center or any other application. So that's one of the key things. So as part of this, security information and event management system, okay, technology supports threat detection, compliance, and security incident management through the collection and analysis, both real time and historical of security events, as well as the wide variety of other event and consequential data sources. So all the threads, whether it is captured, log is captured, and once the log is generated, so analysis is being done on top of that. So AI technique is being used, which could be the AI and machine learning have been critical because the critical technology information security, as they are able to quickly analyze the millions of events and identify many different types of threats. So that's where the AI technique comes into, because in SIM, we are able to capture all the logs and then use AI techniques to analyze the data. So for mall exploiting zero-day vulnerability to identify and behavior of the might led to the phishing attack or download of any of the things. Okay, so that's the thing. And machine learning has become a vital technology for cybersecurity because machine learning preemptively stamps up the cyber threats and bolsters the security infrastructure through the pattern detection. So real-time cyber crime mapping and through the penetration testing. So these are the key things as part of the AI and ML, so that we can have the things in the controlled way. Because thousands of logs will be generated, and we need to see, analyze whether it's real or just a message. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now I'll go to Mr. Parikshit. Mr. Parikshit, our speakers, if I have to put it, what they have spoken so far, they said that there was a huge challenge during the pandemic and new kind of, the attack vector were noticed. And what Mr. Nautiyal said that despite the fact and that we have noticed in different states also, not only in Odisha, that there is a lot of focus on creating NOC and SOC and under the smart city project, also under policing, also under the IT department. And some of them are functioning, some of them are, giving the kind of visibility that a state would need from a cybersecurity perspective. But pandemic was something which was completely new because you are doing things on a different scale altogether. That means it's needed a different architectural approach, not only to the creating awareness within the public sector as to how to deal with some of the silly mistakes that we all do while being online, and from an architecture perspective also. Would you like to share your views, especially around why cybersecurity is essential for a public sector organization in all day-to-day functionality of government businesses, and why it is needed? It must be an integral part of any discussion or any IT project that governments take care.
Thanks. I like to say I'm honored to be part of this panel also. Now every panelist actually had one common thing, right? Pandemic was something we were not ready for. And if you look at enterprise side of it now, they still, at least they had the applications for their customers and everything. But the government had one major challenge is they have to bring offline services to online platform, right? They have to develop the apps and everything. And top of it, in a government kind of a organization, you don't know who your user will be or how much your user count will be, right? Let's say if a private sector launches an app, they know, okay, now this is my customer base. But for government, each and every citizen now is their customer. So planning a cyber security becomes that much complex for them. And on top of it, now see, in a private sector, what we see is now the hackers are after money, right? They will try to compromise and now make money out of it. Whereas in government, we call now on top of hackers, you have something like state sponsors actors, meaning our neighboring countries or now countries which are not in line with India as a country. So they will basically sponsor attack or hacks just to bring down the services. They will not make money out of it, but they want to bring down the services, right? So in the situation of pandemic, what happened was now you have to bring your employees over the VPN, like ma'am was saying now that VPN has to be rolled out, right? Employees has to be taught now what exactly how the VPN has to be connected. So your scope grew out of your offices, right? Where you were controlling your cyber security within your offices. Now you have to control it at the home environment of your employees. The second thing, like everyone mentioned, right? Now every common person has to be connected now. Okay, we have no longer had the option now that can be now have to come to some offices, right? They have to be connected. So from a mobile device to a laptop or now to a desktop, everything has to be connected now. So the cyber security become that much critical because you cannot secure those devices. You have no control over those devices. So the conventional way of thinking of cyber security changed, okay, during the pandemic. And especially in the government sector, you have to look at now security for everything, Internet of Things, what we call it, right? So everything has to be connected and everything has to be protected from your data center where your app is hosted to a user now who you don't know what is he or she is going to use, right? So when this everything get changed, then you have to categorize security in a different architect. Whereas earlier we used to say put network security and then you put app security, right? Now you talk about those terms. You say now you have to have a zero trust environment, right? Meaning I don't know who is going to connect, but you have to establish a zero trust with them, right? Meaning we are going to say they are compromised, and then you put security on top of it now. Okay, so the whole thinking of cybersecurity basically changed now thanks to pandemic, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, because once you have given services to your citizen, you can't take them back also now, right? Absolutely. And I don't know when the whole pandemic will be over. Touch wood, it will remain the way it is for at least for India. But yeah, the whole cybersecurity thinking has changed, and it is that much essential because you are rolling out the services for your citizen. You can't have downtime, you can't have compromise. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you, especially on your point that the cyber attacks are growing both in scale and complexity. And also with the public sector, the intention of attack is not to get the money, but just to deface you. And what over the past 1 week, we have been noticing as to how, the Twitter account of different government departments and state bodies are being either hacked, defaced, and that's happening with multiple organizations. Mr. Pattnaik, now this is very clear that the cyber attacks are growing, as Mr. Parikshit said, both in scale and complexity with higher numbers. So that actually calls for a shift in how actually we view and architect our cyber security postures. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, to face this challenge, to increase cyber security, we are adopting many cyber hygiene practices. One is the basic PCs are loaded with antivirus software. Then cyber security awareness drive to both employees and citizens. Is social media is utilized for larger coverage.
Right.
Then zero, as Mr. Parikshit said, zero trust is adopted in the VPN for accessing important government applications. As Mr. Parikshit already said, in this security model, only authenticated and authorized users and devices are permitted to access data and application, and not other. Also, we keep updated the business continuity and crisis plan for mission critical applications, so that in case it goes down, it should continue. We have already established, as Sohan has already said, we have established CSOC, that is monitoring the threat to government portals and websites. We are also we have advised departments to make security audit from time to time of their applications. And finally, we are also planning to set up a center of excellence for cybercrime in Bhubaneswar Commissioner Police, where the focus will be on cyber crime, cyber fraudulent things, not purely cyber security, but cyber fraudulent things.
Right. Now I'll go to Mr. Manas Panda. Mr. Panda, earlier you were mentioning about as to how STPI has been able to disperse IT sector across places, a small place, tier 2, tier 3 cities. And I'm sure these are happening because of a great collaboration that your organization has been able to offer. Would you like to share your views, especially on what are the opportunities for a public-private partnership in Odisha for creating a robust ICT infrastructure and strengthening the IT and ITS services?
Cyber security and what we are doing in recent past is for our new initiative. We are creating a lot of center of entrepreneurship. So these center of entrepreneurships are helping the budding entrepreneurs, the startups community to come out with solution and to address the problem that is being faced by the common people, by the society. And like recently Mr. Pattnaik mentioned, with support from OCAC or Department of IT Government of Odisha, we are going to run a challenge competition with, for the startups, researchers, the student community, for the police commissionerate as smart policing, wherein one of the problem statement which we want, we are requesting for solution from the startups on the cyber security front, wherein they have to come out with the solution which can be deployable and which can be workable, and the solution can be adaptable by this thing. So this is where we can help the startups, the entrepreneur, to work closely with the government entity to address the problem, the attack problem, the cyber attack problem. So this is one initiative as far as the private partner, the CoE, in a way of CoE, we are taking. So this is a Pan India initiative, and exclusively Odisha also we have started. We are doing this kind of initiative quite for other sectors also, but particularly for this cyber security sector. Recently, we are going to launch this.
Snigdha ma'am, earlier you were mentioning about the challenges that we face from a cybersecurity perspective during the pandemic. And you also spoke about the fact that we need to create a lot of awareness among citizens as well as among the public sector leaders about the best practices to mitigate cybersecurity challenges. Would you like to share what should be the two key immediate priorities for anybody in government organization who is looking after the cybersecurity part?
To begin with, I mean, considering this situation that we have been through, it's going to come again, we never know. So we have to be prepared for handling this kind of a challenge. And so again, if people are going back to that kind of a state where they have to work from home, of course, I mean, we cannot say completely wipe away VPN, but VPNs may be given to, I mean, this is a thing that can be considered, I would say, that privileged people can, privileged resources can be given access over VPN, but there are this other set of people who don't need that, those kind of resources. So they can be targeted with something kind of zero trust network access. So where it's basically a service or an app or a solution which draws a logical boundary around applications. So a person connects to that application. It doesn't have to be part of the network. So that way we cut down. So that way we cut down this set of additional systems onboarding into the enterprise network. So so we can consider that. I think I'm not, I mean, we have got different thrust areas in NIC. We have got the network sec group, we have got the CERT, we have got the application security. I come from the application security domain. But it is for those people who are looking into those areas. They can consider this kind of solution to partition the set of people accessing network, accessing the resources, applications in this case. And so they don't need to make the network vulnerable by joining their vulnerable PCs to the network. They just access the application. And those applications are also not accessible from the internet.
Right.
And because they are internet applications, obviously they have to go on the VPN, no? So that can be, that can be reviewed, and this kind of a better solution be deployed for bringing down the security exposures. One. Second is there need to be a kind of a awareness building on ransomware and phishing. So not everyone was, be aware, they must be aware such that they don't make the mistake of bringing in vulnerabilities into their systems and introducing that into the network. This kind of things. So that is a periodic thing that is to be done to everyone. So, because actually at that point of time, everyone was anxious to get little bit of a news feed about the pandemic, about the COVID-19 thing. So everyone was clicking every little news bit and everything. So that, and by doing that, we might be unwittingly clicking some links which might be making us vulnerable or introducing vulnerabilities into the network. So security is as good as the weak link. So we should not fall. We should not fit into that kind of a space. So that awareness building should be there. That's one. Other is that, so since there are a lot of traffic coming, lot of attacks coming, a little sense is to be made about that traffic with the use of analytics and AI kind of solutions, and get some advanced insight into the things that are going to happen or are happening, so that you can take a informed decision. That's what I would say. The rest of the other things like application security, they are all happening. They're happening in the background. They're all on this. But considering this situation, these are the first 1 or 2 steps. And in that, automation also is something which is a new thing that is coming. There are many other things. There is 5G coming. Then there is this IoT networks coming, which will bring in DDoS, and all those things are there. But to begin with, these are the 1-2 steps that we need to address. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. So before I go to Mr. Nautiyal, I'll go to Parikshit for just a quick response to what ma'am was saying. Essentially, what she is saying that now, since work from home are kind of normal, so your application, your enterprise application is being accessed from a different network, wherein you do not have control on edge as such. So what actually you want to have an enterprise grade security, pass on to even somebody who is coming to your network from home or from any places. And that has been a challenge, not only for government organization, but for even enterprises, large corporates and on, despite the fact that people are using VPN. Would you like to share your views as to how you look at this dichotomy of ensuring a very high grade of security, also giving a great experience to people who are, trying to access your network from home?
It's actually, I had a very good discussion, one of the CISOs I know for a long time, and we were discussing the same thing regarding what ma'am raised, right? This is going to be a new norm, right? Working from home is not going to go away, okay, irrespective how it happens with the pandemic, because now users are more now accessing the applications and now comfortable going online for past 2 years, minimum 2 years. And if you look at the overall picture now, the framework of e-governance also, right? So now your government is going to put in apps and those things now to users, and you have to give accessibility to them. So work from home is not going to go away anytime soon. It has become a new norm. And like you said, now you don't have a network, okay, the extended network now where you come to office and you are connected to your network. Now a person sitting at home is connected to your network, right? So that's the new edge. What you have, what we call it in cybersecurity, is a new edge. So you have to have the same security what you have at your office to the new edge. Like I said, now the new term is zero trust, right? Now this zero trust, a lot of misconception is there where we are thinking it is only applicable to a user who's sitting at home. Okay, that's not true. This is now applicable to even the users who's coming back to office. Okay, if you look at a lot of enterprise, right? I think government is already now, most of the employees are back to office, right? Enterprises still have a mix of that. But once you bring the user back to your office also, you want same kind of a security, right? Because the problem with the cyber security, especially like I said in government, they don't just have to protect against hackers, right? Who are after data and now making money. Ransomware is just one of the problems what government faces, right? They will have now state actors now trying to compromise their applications, right? They will have now hacking happening, or now state sponsor hacking happening now just to compromise the employees of a particular now department, right? So in that case, when there is the new edge which has become in now come into picture, so zero trust talk about covering work from home to even your office. Okay, whatever
Right.
security you have at office, same security should be replicated at his home itself. So that becomes the key. So the cybersecurity has to evolve in the sense, uh, and I will say it is a technology, not a product. ZTNA, a lot of people talk about it as a product, right? Let me put this two-factor authentication or this and that. This is not a product. This is actually a technology now. It's a technology within cybersecurity where your gateway, VPN gateway, should be able to talk to your endpoint. Endpoint should be able to talk to a solution like next your two-factor authentication. Then you have something like a NAC security, even at the home, where you now do a posture check whether the user is compromised because he's sitting outside now at home, could be at airport, wherever he is. So all this solution becomes now a single technology, what we call zero trust, and now all the solution has to communicate with each other. We can't have single point product and say, okay, this is what, and that's done.
Right.
So the communication now, like ma'am was also saying now, that machine learning has to play a part, right? That only works when different security products talk to each other and give the data to the AI or ML to basically do analysis and tell you, okay, this compromise happened from there, and now this is how now the attack happened. So
Right.
that's how it is involving it.
Mr. Nautiyal, one of the very important thing within cybersecurity, and that is one of the biggest challenge I feel, is that we have very dearth of high skills resources within public sector organization who can understand the security challenges, also the very quick dynamic change that is happening in technology world from a security perspective. Would you like to share your views how actually we can address the cybersecurity skill gap that we see in government organization, despite the fact that there are skill development organization which are providing some of the courses, some of the private companies also are providing some online courses.
Yeah, basically, to fulfill that skill gap, there are few things like increase the current cybersecurity skills. Okay, that is going to help and highlight the advantages of the cybersecurity skills. Okay, and where all this and ensuring that the exposure of the broad scope of the cybersecurity challenges that has to be also done, and in order to, and apart from that, awareness of threats, not like some of the things like not clicking the links. So these are the some of the things which can be used. Okay, and because what happens is that once it is someone is attacked, so there should be a clear communication so that people don't get into that. So these are the some of the skill gaps can be. And another thing, setting up a center of excellence and will help in encouraging or aware for the awareness perspective.
Right, right, absolutely. I'll go to Parikshit again. Parikshit, as other speaker spoken before you, and they all said that the cyber attacks are growing both in scale and complexity. Mr. Pattnaik also mentioned that, you also mentioned earlier. And this calls for a kind of shift in how we actually look at the security. How do we actually architecture our cybersecurity deployment? So from an organization perspective, from a Fortinet perspective, how do you look at and what kind of value that you are able to bring, especially if you could share some of the things that you would have done around the government organization?
Digital attack surface has now increased because of the use of now modernization or now e-governance coming into the picture. So like my fellow panelists said already, right? It's becoming more complex and now we have to take care of those things, right? Few years back, actually, now Fortinet introduced something called was a founder for Cyber Threat Alliance. Okay.
Right.
Reason for that was if you look at any recent hack, what would happen? Even you go back 2 years, 3 years back before the pandemic, you don't see standalone hackers now. Okay, you don't see them working now just for glory kind of a thing. They are after your money, so it's now organization now. Okay, I was just talking to one of the analysts, and now he showed me a dark web website. Actually, it's a very well developed website, like a cyber security company, where they basically now charge you money to launch botnets. Okay, so it's a well managed organization now. So once they are talking to each other, you can't have cyber security firms not talking to each other. So we founded a cyber threat alliance. We were the founder of that, where we said, okay, now the intelligence has to be given to each other. Okay, so that was the first step what we took. The second step what we took was we created a security fabric. Now, like I said, now you cannot look at security as a product now. Okay, I can't be telling you, okay, now I have a next generation firewall. That's just a product. Now the security has to look at now each and every frame and security now that particular frame, right? You don't have the edge now, right? You have now your network has grown. Now I know government has invested into private clouds as well, right? So your data center has also grown from a conventional data center to now private clouds, right? So all that security now has to now talk to each other, right? And that's what even the analyst, one of the famous analysts this year came up with something called cyber security mesh architect. Okay, in simple or layman terms, what it talks about is now where different products, right, should be able to communicate with each other. That could be something like a API communication, that's a standard, right? Or it could be some other protocol or na standard protocol where you can talk to each other. And the whole reason behind that is because if you have something like a thread feed now coming from various organizations, so let's say if there is a compromise happening at one layer, right? Let's say the compromise already passed your network security, okay, but it has been cached by your application firewall, right? Once the application firewall catch, he cannot just sit on that, right? It should make the network firewall aware of it. It should tell the end user now, okay, this is something which has happened on this. So this mesh architecture basically talks about that the now product should be able, irrespective of the vendors, they should be able to do that. And we, Fortinet as a company, we started doing, we call it security fabric, I think almost 5 or 4 years back. Okay, where we started building, integrated our own products. Now our network security was able to talk to our application security. Application security gave feed to our endpoint detection and remediation solution. And now we have even opened it up 3 years back. We opened it up for all the other vendors. So I think that is what is going to happen now. Even if there is some vendor who is saying, I know I'm going to keep myself isolated, he will not grow. Okay, because like you were asking now, the skill set becomes that much a problem, right? So introduction of AI ML happened because of the skill set. You don't have the skill set now to train each and every person on each and every product, right? So the correlation and all those things has to taken care by AI. So the communication between various technologies has to happen and various products as well. So the cyber security mesh is what is going to happen now.
Right. Mr. Manoj Kumar Pattnaik, Mr. Manas Panda, Ms. Snigdha Acharya, Mr. Sohan Nautiyal, Mr. Parikshit Gangaher, thank you so much for sharing your views on rethinking cybersecurity strategy for government. And I think you all spoke quite well as to the kind of challenges that we all faced during the pandemic from a cybersecurity perspective and how some of the government organizations were able to mitigate some of them. Also, from an architecture perspective and from a complexity perspective, some of the things that we need to incorporate in our IT program when we embark on from a security perspective. And also, Mr. Sohan Nautiyal views around the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning for bolstering cybersecurity, and also the fact that the skill gaps that we have within the public sector organization on cybersecurity. We need to minimize that, and for that we need to create as many centers as possible, and we need to train as many government officials on cybersecurity do's and don'ts as possible. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us for this discussion and sharing some very interesting and serious concerns and strategies addressing cybersecurity. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short break. On the other side of the break, we have the valedictory session.